If you enjoy this video, please consider giving a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you have any ideas for future videos, share them in the comments section below. This original bedtime story is made possible thanks to Slumberland patrons. If you would like to support this channel, you can find Patreon details in the description and on my channel homepage. So just take a moment to allow your eyes to close and allow yourself to begin to relax. And as you begin to comfortably drift asleep, I'm just going to tell this sleep story in the background. And I don't know whether you'll drift asleep faster to the sound of my voice or whether it'll be to the spaces between my words. And this is a story about Harry. And Harry is a black and white spotted dog who enjoys life on a farm with his two brothers, William and Cruz. And one day the three of them are playing in nearby fields, running around, enjoying the warmth of the sun, the tickling of grass on their nose as they duck down and sneak around. And while they're sneaking through the fields, so they can see some rabbits in the distance. And they sneak around and they find those rabbits. And they play with those rabbits, enjoying being outside in the fields. And they bark up at birds, getting the attention of smaller birds who come down and whistle at them, while the larger birds just seem to circle overhead, not fazed and not particularly interested in coming down and playing. And yet the three of them enjoy playing on the farm. And one evening at the end of a busy day of play, Harry, William and Cruz settle down in their dog beds by the log fire. They can feel the warmth from the fire warming up their coat, and how comforting that warmth feels. They relax down in their beds. The sound of that crackling log fire as they close their eyes and begin to drift asleep, with the dancing light of the fire being noticeable through the closed eyelids. And as they drift asleep, so Harry drifts even deeper and deeper asleep. And William and Cruz drift comfortably asleep for the night, while Harry continues drifting deeper and deeper, so deeply asleep. And as Harry drifts deeper and deeper asleep, so he finds himself walking through the farm, walking out of the farm, walking across the fields. And as he walks across those fields, he notices that he's going on a journey, that he feels drawn on a spiritual quest. And he can see the sun rising across these fields, the slight mist over some of the lower fields, the morning dew across the grass, making cobwebs sparkle like they're full of diamonds. The slight coolness to the air as the sun continues to rise. You can see a deer off in the distance, going about its daily life. And Harry heads across the farm and heads to a nearby track and starts to follow that dirt track away from the farm, and just feels compelled to go on this journey, and so relaxed, hearing the slight crunch of the ground beneath his feet as he walks. And as the sun continues to rise on this cool day, Harry walks along this path. And while walking along this path, Harry can see way off in the distance a mountain range, and he knows that he's going to walk to that mountain range, that his destination is at the top of the mountains, among the clouds. And so he follows this path away from the farm, hearing birds in bushes around him, rustling leaves as the wind blows through the nearby trees, the different smells given off from the different fields. And this day is such a calm, crisp, cool day. The most incredible, clear, blue sky. And as Harry continues to walk, so the day begins to change. The sun continues rising in the sky, and while the sun continues to rise in the sky, so this crisp day begins to warm up. The fields that Harry's walking alongside begin to change, and there are more plants beginning to appear as spring begins to truly set in. And while Harry continues to walk, he feels drawn to those mountains. But he stops from time to time to observe rabbits and birds and other animals just going about their daily life. He realizes that many animals have started families, and the deer he saw in the fields now have young deer just learning, taking their first few steps while they learn to walk, standing with gangly legs. And Harry walks with curiosity. And while walking, he notices raindrops tapping him on the nose, and clouds appearing in the sky overhead as April showers set in. He tucks himself under a bush for a while he sees those raindrops pelting the dry mud, and the dry mud puffing up from the ground as the raindrops strike that ground, before that mud begins to darken as the rain seeps through the cracks into the mud. And Harry thinks to himself how this rain is bringing new life and helping this life to grow. And as the April showers pass, so Harry notices a rainbow and some shards of light breaking through the clouds, illuminating some of those raindrops, making them appear like sparkling diamonds falling from the sky. And as the rain passes, Harry continues his journey. And while he continues to walk, he works his way round and heads into woodland, and walks through that woodland, crunching on the occasional twig on the path, very aware of the rustling of the leaves above him. And the way the light dances in front of him, breaking through the canopy overhead, and the coolness in here, where he's a bit more shaded from that sun. And while walking, he notices how the leaves are getting greener and greener, and the foliage is increasing in density, and the smells of flowers is increasing as more flowers are growing up around him. He notices he's almost walking through time as spring develops and enhances. And as he leaves the other end of the woodland, he discovers a stream that's joining him passing out of the woods. And he begins to follow that stream towards the summer. As the baby animals are beginning to grow up, he can see deer, now more grown up. He can hear fewer baby birds and see more what are almost like teenage birds inquisitively diving around and flying around, and some birds circling overhead, and the rabbits being more grown up. He remembers how much he used to play with the rabbits and the birds in the fields, and playing jumping over grass and hiding and creeping through grass. As summer sets in, and he can really feel the warmth of the sun, and notice how much life there is around him, with dense plants and greenery, overgrown bushes and grass, and thick meadows, as he follows that stream and sees fish swimming in the stream, poking their heads up to the surface, opening their mouths, and then disappearing back beneath the surface again. And he feels that there's something about seeing life passing by in this way, seeing the seasons passing as he walks, from the edge of winter through spring and now into summer, and the summer sounds around him, the summer warmth, and an increase of clouds appearing overhead. And he notices that the wind is picking up, and while the wind picks up, he can see the reflection in the stream disappearing as the water becomes more chaotic and the waves increase in height. And so for the second time on his journey, he tucks himself away out of the elements for a while, as that wind picks up and he sees the way that trees are swaying, branches are bobbing up and down and flicking around. Some leaves are dislodged, landing on the water, travelling downstream. As heavy rain starts to fall, almost like a grey cloud passing by, and yet there's the warmth of summer. And Harry's aware that all the energy of summer gets concentrated into these more energetic storms, whereas the showers of spring were calmer and gentle. The rain of summer is more intense. He finds that he's learning something from the journey, as if the journey is supposed to teach him something on his way to the destination. And after the storm passes, clarity appears, and the animals come back out again, and the plants make the most of that rain, and this stream appears swollen with water, now heading faster and stronger through this meadow. And Harry continues to follow that stream, continues to walk through the meadow, before turning off from the stream, continuing his path to the mountains. And after some time walking along this path, the dense meadow of plants begins to give way to the autumn as the greens begin to change, and the leaves on the trees begin to turn the most beautiful shades of reds and oranges, and the air in the mornings begins to be more crisp again. And the sun often hangs low in the sky. And Harry continues his journey. He can now see those mountains beginning to tower overhead. And he's enjoyed his journey. He has learned a lot so far on this journey about life, about the cycles of the seasons, of the weather, of change, and his onward push towards those mountains. And he notices how life seems to be settling down around him, almost like some of it's going to sleep peacefully, while he continues pushing on. He finds the autumn's very dry, and as the season passes, So it begins to cool down as he reaches the foot of the mountain, and he starts his journey up the mountain, carefully following the path up the mountain. And as he walks up the mountain, so the ground becomes crunchier with leaves on the ground, with twigs on the ground. He can see squirrels running around, burying things, before seeming to go and head into the trees and settle down in the trees. He sees rabbits heading into their holes, birds heading into bushes and finding places to settle down and make comfortable homes. And he heads up higher than the woodland, and he looks back over the woodland below, and he can see all the way back the way the sun is glistening and twinkling on that stream he was following some time ago. He can see where that stream enters the distant woodland, and way beyond that woodland he can see the farms and all that farmland, and way off in the distance near the horizon he can see the farm that he's come from, and his heart feels warm with the pleasure of the journey, proud of what he's accomplished, what he contributed on his journey. And yet he feels compelled to continue forward, and from time to time as he continues forward he turns to look back at how far he's come, how much he's achieved, and the lives he's touched on his way here. As winter begins to set in, at first just the most gentle flurry of snow, the tiniest and softest, most delicate of snowflakes, landing on his nose, resting gently, almost tickling the tip of his nose. And he's surprised at how each of those individuals, such gentle snowflakes, can be building up to create this soft yet crunchy snow that he's walking through, that occasionally sticks to his fur. And he pushes through this snow, initially more powdery, and then almost like it's got a crust on top. It becomes more crunchy. And then the snow seems to fall down more, almost like the air is full of snow, like he's walking through a cloud of snow. And he continues to push on up the mountain. He's gone from following a path to now having to walk through the snow, through the winter, having to create his own path at the end of this journey. And after some time walking, Harry begins to notice a monastery just up there at the top of the mountain. And so he continues pushing on to that monastery. And once at the monastery he heads in through the entrance. And a monk seems to be waiting there to greet him. And the monk leans down as he heads through the gates, pets the top of his head, side of his neck, strokes his back, says you've been on a long journey. You've contributed more than you realise by your journey. You've been on a quest of inner discovery. But now it's time to take on a whole new role. And over there, this monk says, is a doorway that looks like it heads into the mountain, but through that doorway is actually the temple up here in the mountain. The temple was built into the mountain. And when you head through that doorway into the temple, you'll meet the almighty dog, and they'll tell you what to do next. And then the monk stands up and walks away to take their position as Harry heads over to the temple. And at the temple, Harry pushes on the door. The door sounds like it unlatches, and the wooden door gently swings open. And the sounds from outside are quieter as Harry walks inside, closes the door behind him as that latch shuts on the door. And Harry spreads his legs just slightly apart, braces himself, and then does a full body shake, shaking from his bum to his head and his head back to his bum, and then shaking his head, shaking off the last of the snow. And then a couple of residual shakes before continuing to walk deeper and deeper into the temple. And the temple is quiet, with just the subtle echoing sound of his soft paw steps on the floor. And then Harry notices what looks like 2 candles either side of a golden bowl. And Harry walks up to that golden bowl in the centre of this temple. And the most perfect white dog comes over to Harry. And this dog has the softest looking, flowiest white fur. And the dog says to Harry, I'm the almighty dog. I'm the most wise being here. I look out from the top of this mountain over the land below. I oversee the dogs of wisdom, and I support the dogs of wisdom on their spiritual quests. And you have passed your lifelong quest, and now it's time for an eternal spiritual quest, where you'll be a spiritual dog, a dog of wisdom. And if you choose to accept this spiritual quest, you'll drink from the golden bowl of wisdom. And that'll allow you to pass into this spiritual realm as a dog of wisdom. And you'll begin a new chapter in your existence on a whole new plane of reality, where your role will be to work out from this monastery, spreading love and healing to humans and other beings, where you'll touch the lives of others in ways they don't even realize. And you won't be doing so for gratitude or for any kind of thanks or response, but altruistically just spreading love and healing. You'll manifest as a dog in their life. You'll find those who need your support. You'll manifest in a form that allows you to engage with them. And you'll support them and be there for them for that period of time. And you'll bring them love and healing. Before then moving on to the next being that needs your support. Almost like a missionary of love, carrying that healing through into the future. And Harry instinctively felt this was now his destiny, and he drank from that golden bowl, and that water was the purest, lightest water Harry had ever drank. He could feel that water passing down into his body, spreading down through his body. He could feel his body almost tingling and sparkling with light. He could feel the fur beginning to glow with energy as he transformed into a dog of wisdom. And the almighty dog said, "Rest up for tonight, for tomorrow your work will begin. And you'll be touching the lives of many and healing. And people will just instinctively have a feeling of your presence, that you're there, supporting them, encouraging them, and you'll take on the form that they need in that moment to help them through moment by moment. And then when they no longer need your support there and then, you'll move on to support the next person or the next being. But for now, settle down. There's a bed especially for you. Relax and drift and float into the most pleasant, most comfortable sleep. And Harry settled down and drifted and dreamed so deeply, so pleasantly and relaxed, asleep, aware of his continuing mission to seek out those who need help and support, to spread love and healing and well-being among others. And he drifted and floated peacefully and comfortably asleep.